What's up YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of The House Show. This is James Lau here. In this episode, I'll be sharing with you what I've learned regarding planning of a development. How is a development being planned? I'm sharing with you what I've learned regarding it. If you're actually interested in knowing how do they actually plan out a development, who knows, my learnings might be able to help you, right? I found out that before a developer they decide what to build on that piece of land, find out this piece of land, what is the usage of it. There are actually quite a few of usage for land, like specifically for residential purposes or commercial purposes, like industrial purposes. Those are the usage of a piece of land. What I learned is that the developers that actually went and find it out first on the usage of this piece of land before they decide what to build on the next stage. However, I also found out that this piece of land being planned for residential purposes, but under this piece of land, right, in the land title might be showing that it's for agriculture purposes. That being said, this agriculture land is being planned for residential purposes in the future. That might actually affect on the land value despite the usage of a land, since this particular land is being planned for residential purposes. That's the first step that the developers actually do after settling with all the land issues, right? And then now they'll be present on the piece of land to check out the site. What kinds of activities are being carried out on the site then? I found out that there would have to be physically on the piece of the land to check if there's any uneven surfaces, like if there's any slopes. How do they want to design these buildings? Do they want to design this building on top of the slope and then there's a stairs coming up to the building, or that comes with a semi-basement car park with good ventilation, or they prefer to have something like underground shopping kind of thing. They also check on the environmental issue. For instance, they might have some trees over here and then there's a good view for the site. So how do they actually want to plan out the buildings? Where is the facade of the development? All kind of stuff is being taken into consideration. After they check out the site, they have a clear idea on how they want their buildings to be placed. Meaning to say, the orientation of the buildings. The purpose of going to the site, right, is that they can actually check, okay, how the sun rises here and the sun sets here. How do we want to place the buildings now? There's a good view towards my direction here. Then do they want to place their buildings like this, like this, like this? Or the orientation of the building is taken into consideration after the site design. The orientation of the buildings definitely affects the views that they are getting, the views that the future home buyers are getting, as well as the natural features. Maybe there's some rivers in front. Do they want to clear off the trees that is blocking the river, or do they want to maintain the trees to act as a separation from the river? The views of the residents that they are getting is actually the trees instead of the river. I learned that developing a development is actually very technical, meaning to say you need to have a lot of respective professionals in different fields to work out on this particular project in order to success. Since the building orientation is confirmed, meaning to say the facade of the buildings, which is the main look lah. Let's say this is a building and this is the main entrance. So this would be the facade of the building. The facade of the building, the design of the building facade. Do they want to use one color for this entire facade, or do they want to mix some colors together, 2 colors, 3 colors? Do they want to use different kind of finishes in this particular facade? The main reason for designing this building facade is to make sure that this particular development looks attractive. I also learned another thing is that all of the units in the lower ground, actually the privacy wise is not that good, right? Because like sometimes the lower ground balcony is actually like on the same level, on the same par as the lobby, as the whatever common ground. One of the solutions that I learned in order to tackle this problem is that developers they actually implemented one idea, which is plant some greeneries in between these ground floor level balconies and the walk path. This is the balcony, this is the unit of the lower ground floor, right? And then this is the balcony here. Instead of being connected like closely, Developer did some plantings here, so meaning to say the separation now is bigger. That means the privacy wise for the lower ground unit is more for now. We talk about the land usage, the site design, the orientation of the building, the safety and boundary treatments, and then next would be the outdoor spaces. This is when the developers they decide what facilities to include for this development. For example, where is the bin collection point? Where is the swimming pools located? Do they want to place this swimming pool on top of the development, or they prefer it on the lower ground? Where's the gym? Also the landscape, right? This is when the developers they try to mix between softscape and hardscape into this development. Softscape, for example, are like the trees, grasses, you know, like all the greeneries are considered as a softscape, while hardscape means all the stones, the finishes, pathways, something which is literally hard. Maybe you get some waterfalls from rocks, that's a hardscape as well. What I have learned here is just a brief idea, you know. What I'm sharing here today, I think it's not really into depth yet, but just a rough idea on how a development planning actually works. I found out that the next thing that they would do would be the vehicle access. How does the vehicle enter into this development? Do they enter directly from the main road? Do they enter directly from a highway? Or there's another like access road? For example, this is the highway, this is the development here, okay? Do they want to have a lorongs here to enter into this development, or do they want to connect this development directly to the highway? After this issue is being settled, then here comes the second problem, which is after the vehicles enter into the development, where do they park? How do they want to design the car park? Do they want to design it with underground, or do they want to just do the surface parking, the normal parking, or do they want to design a multi-story car park? Stuff like that is what they consider as well. The last point for today would be the shape of the building. I learned that architects they're actually very precise on this shape of the building, you know. If you were to check developments in Singapore or whatever like more developed countries lah, their buildings, right, it's not like one block, one tower, or chin-cai like square blocks, you know. It's very odd shape lah, but they have some reasons behind why do they design odd shape for this particular development, you know. Due to COVID, architects these days, they're actually planning about it like to make their future developments into a more natural oriented lah. The building doesn't feel hot without any functions of aircon, you know, because of COVID. We can on our aircons, be it natural lightings, natural ventilation, all kind of stuff. It's actually energy saving as well. Another point to add on the buildings, right? So this is when they would consider if they were to build a green building. In order to build a green building, and the green building index needs to be met. If your building doesn't meet the GBI, which is the green building index, it can't be called as a green building. What is actually a green building? I found out green building, which is an energy saving buildings. They have tons of solar panels. Then the energy consumption for the entire building up until a certain percentage only. They also practice rainwater harvesting, which is, this is a building, right? And then the rain drops. They store the rainwater, and then they use this rainwater to wash their toilets in the building. They use this rainwater to clean their floors, mop their floors, you know, like stuff like that. Means they reuse anything that is available in the nature lah. These kinds of activities needs to be practiced, needs to be done in order to be considered as a green building. I guess that's all about it for this episode. Thank you for watching once again. This is James Lau here. If you think this episode actually helps you, give it a like, share it, and even subscribe to my channel. I'll see you again in the next one. See you there.